It started with what should have been a delay, nothing more. I was on an Amtrak train, headed to visit my brother in Chicago, when we hit something on the tracks in rural Pennsylvania. Not a full derailment, but enough damage to strand us in a small town that looked like it hadn't changed since the 60s. They had to bus all the passengers into town while they figured out the mess. One diner, one bar, one gas station. That was it. Most people swarmed the diner, but I ended up at the bar next door, alone, with my overnight bag and a lukewarm turkey sandwich. That's where I met Natalie. She was sitting 2 stools down, scrolling through her phone with a half smile on her face. Blonde hair pulled into a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and an oversized sweater that made her look effortlessly comfortable. We started talking after she made a joke about how it felt like we'd stepped into a Twilight Zone version of America. I laughed. She had a way of making the situation feel less annoying. She told me she was heading back home after visiting her family out east. Said she worked in logistics. I told her I was between jobs. Technically true. I'd just left a startup that went under and I was chasing down interviews and freelance gigs. She didn't seem to judge. In fact, she said something about how she admired people who were willing to take risks. We talked for hours while the buses sorted themselves out. By the time we were finally on our way again, it felt like I'd known her longer than a few hours. We exchanged numbers. I figured I'd text her once and never hear back. But she did text back, and a week later we met for coffee. Then dinner. Then more coffee. Before I knew it, we were seeing each other a couple of times a week. She had her life together in a way that was both intimidating and comforting. She had her own apartment in the city, a solid job and a routine. Me? I was still bouncing between side gigs and what I like to call consulting, which was really just me trying to land something that didn't involve selling my soul to another startup. Still, she believed in me. That's what got me. When I told her about the job interviews that didn't pan out, or the freelance checks that came late, she never made me feel like less of a man. She just nodded, encouraged me, and covered dinner more often than not. Said it was no big deal. About 6 months in, her lease came up for a renewal. Mine was expiring too. She had the bigger space, and it just made sense. At least that's what I told her when I asked if we should move in together. I said it like I was offering a solution to both our problems. In truth, I needed a break. My funds were running dry and I was tired of bouncing around. She agreed. The first month went fine. I even covered my half of rent on time. But after that, things started slipping. A late payment here, an excuse there. A project fell through, a client ghosted. I told her it was temporary, that something better was coming. And she believed me. She always believed me. And that's when I started to take her for granted. Not intentionally, not at first, but little by little. I got used to her paying the bills, making dinner after a long shift, picking up the slack I left behind. I told myself I'd repay her when things got better. But things didn't get better. I just got better at hiding how bad they really were. By the 3rd month of living together, I was behind on my share of the rent again. Natalie didn't say much, just paid the full amount herself and left the receipt on the kitchen counter. I told her a freelance payment was delayed, but I'd make it up to her. She just nodded, gave me a tired smile, and said, "I trust you." That crushed me more than if she'd yelled, because deep down, I knew I was lying. Not about the check. There was no check. I hadn't landed anything in weeks. I was applying, sure, but half-heartedly. I'd slipped into this routine of staying up late, sleeping in, and telling myself tomorrow would be the day everything changed. Meanwhile, Natalie was working overtime. Sometimes she'd come home too tired to talk, just kick off her shoes, microwave leftovers, and collapse on the couch. I'd greet her with a smile, maybe rub her shoulders, pour her a glass of wine and tell her I was almost there, that the next pitch was solid, that one client was this close to signing. It was all smoke, all delay tactics. And she kept believing me. But the guilt started to rot me from the inside. Every time I watched her pack a lunch to save money, or skip a night out with friends because rent's tight this month, I felt smaller. I tried to make up for it in other ways. Keeping the apartment spotless, cooking dinner, running errands. I told myself it was a partnership, that this was my contribution while I found my footing. But one night, I overheard her on the phone with her best friend, Jay. I was in the bedroom pretending to nap when I heard her voice crack. I don't know how much longer I can carry everything. I love him, but I'm exhausted. I'm scared to even check my bank balance. I laid there, frozen. She didn't sound angry, just defeated. And I hated that I'd put that tone in her voice. That I was turning the woman who once laughed at train station jokes into someone who cried behind closed doors. I decided to fix it, really fix it. The next day, I shaved, put on the one good shirt I had left, and went into the city. I walked into every cafe, shop, and warehouse with a help wanted sign. No more waiting for the perfect gig. No more startup dreams. Just something, anything that brought in steady money. I landed a part-time job stocking shelves at a chain pharmacy. The pay was awful, but it was something. I came home that night and told her over dinner. She looked surprised, then proud, gave me a real smile for the first time in weeks. "Thank you," she said softly. "This means more than you know." But of course, it wasn't enough. Part-time work didn't fix 3 months of unpaid debt or overdue bills. I was making a dent, sure, but not enough. And as hard as I tried to be better, old habits die hard. Especially when temptation came wrapped in new chances. It started with a message from an old flame, someone from before Natalie. Her name was Daria, and she said she'd seen one of my old pitches online and was impressed. She worked in tech now, had contacts, money, and interest. Said we should grab a drink, talk opportunities. I should have said no, but I didn't. Meeting up with Daria felt like stepping into a different life, one I hadn't earned but craved. She was polished, successful, talked fast, and smiled like she knew exactly what she wanted. Over drinks, she told me her company was expanding, and they were looking for creative consultants for their branding push. "It's freelance for now," she said, twirling her wine glass, "but it pays well, and if you play your cards right, who knows?" I didn't tell her about Natalie. I didn't mention I was already living off the grace of a woman who trusted me more than I deserved. In that moment, I wasn't Natalie's struggling boyfriend. I was a man with promise, charm, and fresh opportunity. That night, I came home late. Natalie was already asleep, curled up in a blanket on the couch with the TV still on. I turned it off, kissed her forehead, and told myself I hadn't done anything wrong. Yet, over the next few weeks, Daria and I started working together more often. At least, that's what I told myself. She'd invite me to dinners that blurred the line between business and something else. I always told Natalie I was meeting a potential client. Technically, it wasn't a lie. But every time I walked back into our apartment with the scent of expensive wine on my shirt and guilt in my throat, I felt like the worst kind of coward. Natalie, bless her, never questioned me. She'd smile, ask how the meeting went, sometimes hand me a plate she'd saved from dinner. Her eyes looked tired, but she was still rooting for me, still believing the man she loved was on the verge of something great. I told myself I'd come clean once the deal with Daria went through, that I'd use the money to pay Natalie back, make everything right. But that moment never came, because one night, Daria kissed me. It wasn't some grand romantic moment, just a soft, quiet kiss after a long day, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I didn't stop her. For a split second, I forgot about the rent Natalie had covered, the groceries she bought, the nights she'd cried on the phone. I forgot about everything except how it felt to be wanted by someone who saw me as successful, not someone she had to rescue. And that was the moment everything shifted. Daria didn't know about Natalie. She assumed I was single. I didn't correct her. The line between truth and convenience had blurred so much, I couldn't even find it anymore. Weeks passed. I kept the two lives separate. Natalie and I shared dinner in our cramped apartment, and I paid my small share of the bills from the pharmacy job. Meanwhile, I spent evenings with Daria, wrapped in the illusion of a man on the rise. Then came the ring. Daria showed me one afternoon, her eyes sparkling. "It's not official yet," she whispered, "but I think he's going to propose soon." I blinked. "He?" She laughed. "You dummy, unless I misread everything." My mouth went dry. She thought I was serious. She thought we were real. And instead of correcting her, I just smiled and said, "Maybe." Because somewhere in the back of my twisted, desperate mind, I thought I could juggle both worlds a little longer, that maybe I deserved both women's love. I didn't realize how fast it would all come crashing down. It unraveled faster than I could have imagined. It was a Friday night, and Natalie had made spaghetti, her go-to comfort meal. She'd lit candles, set the table, even wore the blue dress I once said made her eyes look like the ocean. I walked in late, tie loosened, Daria's perfume still clinging to my shirt. Natalie smiled through it anyway. Halfway through dinner, she asked, "Do you ever think about the future? Us, I mean?" I should have said something honest. Instead, I mumbled something vague about needing to get my career sorted first. She nodded, took a sip of her wine, and said nothing else. That was the last quiet night we ever had. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Natalie talking on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was tight, controlled. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught enough. "No, it's fine. Just didn't expect to see his name tagged." "No, he said it was work." I sat up, my stomach twisting. I knew what this was. She'd seen it. Daria had posted a photo the night before, a soft-lit shot of us at a rooftop bar. Her caption read, "Grateful to have this man by my side, my future." She'd tagged me, thinking it was sweet. She had no idea she'd just lit a match to my entire life. Natalie was standing at the kitchen sink when I came out. Her back was to me, her hands gripping the counter. The air between us was heavy, electric. I opened my mouth, but she spoke first. "Who is she, Mason?" I froze. I saw the picture. I saw her. I tried to play dumb at first, asked what picture she meant. She spun around so fast I flinched. Her eyes weren't sad, they were hollow. "Don't insult me," she said, voice flat. "How long has this been going on?" I hesitated. "Too long." "About 2 months," I admitted. "It wasn't supposed to happen." "But it did." She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at me like she was trying to understand how she'd ever believed in me. "I paid your rent, Mason, your groceries. I put gas in your car while you chased one failed dream after another. And you thanked me by cheating? With some woman who thinks you're someone you're not." I wanted to say something, anything, but nothing would have mattered. She walked past me into the bedroom, grabbed the duffel bag from the closet, and started stuffing clothes inside. I stood there like an idiot while she packed her life into canvas. "I want you out," she said. "Today." "Natalie, please. I can explain." She zipped the bag hard enough to snap the silence in half. "Don't. Just don't." She handed me the bag. I didn't even argue. I packed the rest of my stuff in silence. My laptop, my shoes, a few toiletries. She didn't say another word. When I opened the door to leave, she finally looked up. "Take the key off your ring," she said. "You don't live here anymore." I slid the key off and placed it on the counter. The door clicked shut behind me. And just like that, the life I'd built, on her patience, her kindness, her belief in me, was gone. I didn't go to Daria's that night. I couldn't. I sat on a park bench until sunrise, my duffel bag at my feet, wondering when exactly I'd lost the man I was supposed to be. It's been 8 months since Natalie told me to leave, and in that time, I've come to understand just how much damage I caused, not just to her, but to myself. After she kicked me out, I spent 2 nights crashing on a friend's couch, then moved into a weekly motel that smelled like mildew and desperation. Daria let me stay with her for a while, but it wasn't the comfort I expected. Every time she looked at me, I felt the weight of the lie I'd carried into her home. She knew something was off, even if she couldn't name it. Eventually, she found out. Someone sent her Natalie's old Instagram photos. Us at a lake, laughing over ice cream, her arms around my neck like she actually believed in me. Daria asked me one question. Did you ever love her? I didn't answer fast enough. That was her answer. She told me to pack my things. From there, I spiraled. I couch surfed, drained what was left of my checking account, and finally took a job at a fast food joint near the edge of town. I wore a paper hat and scrubbed floors with hands that used to sketch out dreams of startups and success. Karma doesn't always show up in flames. It sometimes comes wrapped in polyester uniforms and back pain. I tried reaching out to Natalie, texted from burner numbers, sent letters, even stood across the street from her building once or twice just to see her walk by. But I never had the courage to speak. She always looked tired, like she was carrying too much. I wondered how much of that weight had been mine. The ring I bought for Daria sat in a drawer for weeks. Every time I looked at it, I felt sick. I didn't pawn it. I couldn't. That ring wasn't mine to sell. Natalie had paid for it through groceries, rent, late-night gas money, and unwavering belief in a man who never deserved it. I saved up a little cash. Nothing dramatic, just tips from extra shifts and some freelance gigs I'd scrounged up, and finally showed up at her door. I wasn't there to ask for forgiveness. I knew I didn't deserve it. I just wanted to return what little I could. She opened the door like she'd expected trouble. I held up my hands, told her I wasn't staying, gave her the ring, along with an envelope holding $1,500, 0 cents, everything I had. I told her I'd keep sending more, bit by bit, until I'd paid back everything I owed. I apologized for the lies, for the manipulation, for stealing her peace. And then I walked away. She never said a word, just took the bag and closed the door. I moved to Pittsburgh last week. A buddy helped me land a job at a warehouse. Nothing glamorous, but steady work and a clean start. I'm in therapy now, trying to unravel the knots in my head that made me think using someone like Natalie was okay. It's not. It never was. I don't expect her to forgive me. Honestly, I hope she never has to think about me again. But I do hope she's okay. I hope her fridge is full, her rent is paid on time, and there's laughter in her apartment again. She deserves that, more than I ever gave her. I'm not proud of who I was, but I'm trying to be someone better, one paycheck at a time.